The story begins with a young boy playing in the forest. He notices a bright golden light and goes to investigate. From the light, a girl and an old man emerge. The girl asks the boy for his name, and he introduces himself as Satou. She introduces herself as Hime Nanoka and requests that Satou keep what he saw a secret. Hime suggests that it's best to forget about it, but in return, she promises to be his friend. Satou feels a strong urge to protect her and decides to keep that thought with him forever. 10 years pass, and Hime wakes up Satou. She has prepared breakfast for him, and Satou is impressed by the luxurious meal. Hime mentions that it's the start of summer break, and she woke up early without realizing it. Satou recalls that Hime Nanoka is his childhood friend, and she moved into the house next door a decade ago. She lives with her grandfather since she doesn't have parents. Satou notices that Hime has changed a lot since starting high school, particularly her physical appearance, and he playfully teases her about it. Hime explains that deliberately keeping a low profile would only draw more attention to her unique hair, and she believes that, as a princess, it's essential for her to be strong. Satou recalls that Hime has been referring to herself as a princess since childhood, and she playfully gets close to him, making him feel embarrassed. However, all she does is pick a grain of rice from around his mouth and eat it, easing his embarrassment. The scene transitions to the two of them leaving for school, where they greet Hime's grandfather before heading out. On the way, Hime inquires if Satou's father is still not home, and he explains that his father won't return until after summer break. Hime expresses sympathy, but Satou assures her that he's used to it. Satou also notices the rings on Hime's neck, which remind him of the promise they made as children. In their childhood, Hime had told him that these rings were meant for the man she would marry someday, and she asked Satou to marry her when they grew up. However, now she playfully tells him she won't give them to him because they're important to her. Satou thinks to himself that childhood promises shouldn't be taken seriously, and the scene shifts to their arrival at school. Hime proudly shows off her test scores to her friends, who praise her for her intelligence. Hime mentions that, as a princess, it's her duty to be smart, prompting her friends to wonder which country's princess she represents. Meanwhile, Satou talks with some of his friends, and one of them comments on how great it must be to have a girlfriend, noting that Satou comes to school with Hime every day. Satou explains that they walk together because she lives next door. As he's chatting with his friends, Satou receives a message from Hime inviting him to the summer festival. She instructs him to meet her in front of the shrine at 6 in the evening. Satou is curious why she's sending him a message, but he believes it's okay to be hopeful. Later, Satou meets Hime at a shrine and is surprised by her yukata outfit. Hime playfully asks if he's captivated by her appearance, and Satou admits he is, which makes Hime blush. They both enjoy the festival together. Hime expresses her excitement for festivals and recalls a childhood memory of getting lost in one. Satou had held her hand to keep them from getting separated, and Hime thought he was cool back then. Satou wonders if he's still cool now, and Hime playfully says she doesn't know, suggesting they get some food. Hime buys Choco Banana, and at a shooting stall, she asks Satou to win a stuffed toy for her. Satou hesitates, worried about their relationship, but he also doesn't want things to stay the same. He wins the toy for her, and they watch fireworks at the shrine. Satou tries to confess his feelings during the fireworks, but he's interrupted, and Hime mentions that the fireworks are beautiful. She expresses her gratitude for watching them together. Suddenly, she reveals a secret. She's decided to move. Satou is surprised and asks when she's leaving. She tells him she's leaving for her grandfather's hometown the next day. They return to their apartment building, and Hime thanks Satou for the wonderful night watching the fireworks. Satou asks if she really has to leave, but Hime ignores him, saying he gave her a memorable night. In bed, Satou wonders where Hime is going, realizing he thought he knew everything about her but actually knew nothing. Satou notices a golden light coming from the mountains, reminding him of the day he first met Hime. He goes to the source and finds Hime there. He asks her not to go, and Hime is surprised that Satou remembers their first meeting. She admits she lied about moving away and is leaving for a different world. She reveals she's going to get married as she's a princess. She bids farewell to Satou, who decides he won't just watch her leave. He steps into the golden light, waking up in a palace where he witnesses Hime marrying a prince. Wedding attendees are surprised to see Satou, and the priest asks Hime to perform the sacred kiss. Satou calls out to Hime, and the prince questions who he is. A monster then enters the palace, known as an abyssal creature. Hime's grandfather, Alabaster, tries to fight it but is distracted by seeing Satou in this world, leading to the monster defeating him. Alabaster, Hime's grandfather, asks Hime to give the ring of light to the prince. Still, Hime notices that Satou is in danger and kisses him instead. She gives him her ring, and the prince believes Princess Crystal has made her decision. He hands Satou a sword, leaving Satou confused about what to do with it. The monster approaches him, and the sword and ring start to glow. Satou slashes the monster in one strike, then faints. When he wakes up in bed, he asks Hime where he is. Hime informs him they're in the royal couple's bedchamber, and she explains they shared the kiss of the oath. Satou wonders if this means Hime loves him. Hime reveals she was supposed to marry the prince, but knew nothing about him, so she chose Satou when she saw a familiar face. Satou can't believe this is why Hime chose him, and Hime apologizes for making him her hero. Later, maids discuss the Ring King, who came from another world and defeated an abyssal creature with a single strike. Later, Satou meets with some important people in the palace. They whisper about how the wedding was supposed to make the relationship between the Empire and the Kingdom of Light stronger. They worry that when the king finds out, he'll be very angry. The prince, however, explains that the man chosen by the Ring Princess is the Ring King, the savior of the world. Both he and Satou are just following their destiny to save the world, regardless of what the king thinks. People in the room gossip about how the second prince is very proud of himself. Alabaster, Hime's grandfather, clarifies that he brought the Ring King here because they wanted to meet him. He introduces Satou to the entire kingdom, and Satou feels nervous being in the spotlight. Alabaster asks Satou to say something, and Satou notices the cheering crowd. Alabaster tells Satou that everyone has been waiting for the Ring King, and he represents hope for their world. Encouraged by the support, Satou proclaims himself as the Ring King, someone who has come from another world to save them all, their hero. The scene shifts to Satou taking a bath, where he reflects on his earlier words. Unexpectedly, Hime joins him in the bath. She explains that they are officially married, and she asks Satou not to look at her. They bathe together, and Hime apologizes for causing trouble for Satou. She acknowledges that he was never meant to be a part of this situation, but Satou reassures her that he's willing to stay. Satou explains that the monster from yesterday was after her, and the ring she carried. Since he's the only one who can save her, he won't leave her side. Hime recalls how when she first started school, everyone avoided her because of her unusual hair color, but Satou was different. He came to her rescue, and she thanks him. Satou, with a mischievous glance, attempts to sneak a peek at Hime's chest, but she covers herself and says that royal family weddings are merely formalities. She insists that she only made him her husband by accident, and he shouldn't feel responsible. Satou agrees but expresses his happiness at being chosen by Hime. She asks if he likes her a lot, and he confirms it, calling her his most important friend. They hear bells ringing outside and wonder what's happening. Rushing to the palace gate, they discover that soldiers are speculating about their activities in the bedroom. Hime clarifies that they haven't been intimate yet. The soldiers inform them that they are under attack by abyssal creature and that the monster Satou defeated earlier was likely a scout. They request Satou's assistance, despite his lack of combat experience. Hime interjects, expressing concern for Satou's safety. Alabaster reminds them that Satou must fight since he possesses the ring. They equip Satou with an axe and explain that the Ring of Light is a powerful weapon against the abyss, capable of banishing evil. Although Satou is unsure about the world's situation, he is determined to save Hime's life and agrees to help. Before Satou leaves, Hime kisses him and asks him to vanquish the evil creatures and save their world from turmoil. We then see a maid in the castle is under attack by an abyssal creature, but Satou bravely comes to her rescue. He tells the maid to get to a safe place, and thinks about how he has already defeated 3 monsters, though his power weakened quickly in his previous battle. Alabaster explains that the power in Satou's ring comes from the bond with the princess, Hime, and her kiss. Alabaster tells Satou that part of Hime's duty is to support the Ring King in battle. However, sustaining this power will be difficult for Satou. Alabaster reassures him that he will help. Satou asks Alabaster if he is as powerful as others say, referring to him as a great sage. Alabaster confirms he is. Just then a powerful enemy leader, the Knight of the Abyss King, appears. Satou tries to fight the knight but is quickly defeated and his weapon is destroyed. He's surprised to find he's still alive and wonders if the ring's power protected him. Alabaster tells Satou to run, and they head back into the castle, but 2 abyssal creatures chase them. Satou struggles to even get close to the knight, and Alabaster explains the knight is a fearsome monster with powerful magic. Satou wonders if they can fight the knight using the ring's power, but Alabaster tells him they need to focus on escaping and uses his magic to stop the creatures chasing them. As they try to escape again, they are blocked by the knight. Suddenly, the prince from earlier attacks the knight and tells them he has prepared a carriage for their escape. Satou is concerned about Hime being left in the castle, but the prince reassures him. They escape in the carriage, where Hime is relieved to see Satou safe. The prince explains that the monsters have captured the southern tower, so he took action to save Hime. Satou asks for the prince's name, and he introduces himself as Marmaruji, the second prince of the Jazara Empire. Satou finds his name difficult to pronounce, so the prince suggests Satou call him Marsh. Satou asks Alabaster if Kingdom will be okay, and Alabaster explains that currently, the Abyss King is focusing on chasing the Ring King and his ring. Once the monsters learn they've left the castle, they'll start searching for them, but hopefully, there won't be more casualties. Alabaster admits it's nearly impossible to defeat the Knight of the Abyss King without the power of light, leading Satou to feel he must be the one to conquer him. Alabaster clarifies they're fleeing because Satou's Ring King powers are weak. For him to fully harness his power, he must collect the other 4 rings. Satou realizes this means marrying 4 more girls, and Alabaster confirms his next mission is to wed the other 4 princesses and obtain their rings. Satou objects to polygamy, but Alabaster frames it as an exciting adventure and a man's dream. Meanwhile, Hime struggles to hide her discomfort with this plan. The scene shifts to the group at an inn with only 2 rooms available. Alabaster suggests he should stay with the princess for her safety, but Hime disagrees. The prince suggests she shares a room with her husband, Satou. Later, during a meeting, Alabaster briefs Satou on the true role of the Ring King. Long ago, the Abyss King aimed to dominate the world with dark power, unleashing countless monsters and causing nations to fall. The Ring King, wielding rings of light, fire, water, wind, and earth, sealed the Abyss King away after a prolonged battle. The rings, infused with his magical power, were given to his 5 wives and returned to their countries. These rings, passed down through generations, symbolize the bond between the princesses and the Ring King. Now, with the Abyss King's resurrection and his quest for power, it falls upon the Ring King to seal him away again. To do this, Satou must marry the 5 princesses and gather the 5 rings. In his room, Satou is deep in thought when Hime tells him not to overthink their marriage, calling it a sham. Suddenly, Satou feels pain and wonders if he was injured in the recent battle. Concerned, Hime asks Satou to remove his shirt, and upon doing so, she discovers several wounds on his back. Blaming herself for choosing him as the Ring King, Hime runs away in tears. Worried, Satou goes looking for Hime and encounters Mars. He asks if Mars has seen Hime, and Mars confirms she just ran past him. Mars sympathizes with the heavy burden of being the Ring King, but Satou insists it's not overwhelming. Mars thanks Satou for taking on the Ring King role, freeing him from that duty. He observes that Hime must be special to Satou, given his journey from his world to follow her. Mars encourages Satou, saying pursuing love is not easy and should be a source of pride. Apologizing for the delay, Mars directs Satou to the backyard where Hime might be. Satou rushes off, leaving Mars admiring his courage. In the backyard, Satou finds Hime and confesses his feelings for her, clarifying it's more than friendship. He reassures her that he's here by choice, and she shouldn't feel guilty. Hime admits her worries, explaining she was prepared to forget her previous life as Hime Nanoka to fulfill her role as the Princess of Light. Ready to marry a stranger for the world's fate, her resolve wavered when Satou, the man she loves, entered this world. She knows her husband, the Ring King, faces battles and must marry other princesses, but she struggles with these realities. Satou apologizes, and Hime decides to stop worrying. She resolves to be Satou's real wife and support him as the Ring King. She asks Satou if he'll accept her as his wife, and Satou agrees. In their room, Satou and Hime find themselves in an awkward situation following their recent commitment. They're unsure of their next steps now that Hime is officially Satou's wife. Satou impulsively moves closer to her but then hesitates, feeling that something isn't right. He notices Hime is trembling and decides to stop, telling her they shouldn't rush into things. Satou expresses his desire for their first intimate moment to be more meaningful, having waited 10 years for this. He suggests they take their time as a married couple, leading to a shared kiss. The next morning, Alabaster asks them how they slept. Hime says she slept well but internally says that she couldn't sleep at all. Alabaster is disappointed to hear that they didn't take their relationship further despite the romantic atmosphere. Satou and Hime are shocked to learn Alabaster was watching them. Alabaster reassures them that strengthening their bond is crucial, as it powers the Ring King. Mars arrives, bringing Satou and Hime cloaks to blend into their surroundings. Alabaster then announces their next destination is the Elf Country, known as Lanka of the Wind, where the Ring of Wind, an elven heirloom, is located. He teases Satou about the elves' renowned beauty, but Hime reminds him that she is Satou's true wife. Elsewhere, in Lanka, the elven princess expresses her disdain for the Ring King. Alabaster recounts that Lanka, a hub of knowledge, was once a sacred place. However, 50 years ago, a gust barrier appeared around it, changing the nation. Alabaster recalls visiting Lanka before the barrier existed. As Satou and the group approach the barrier, a bear-like creature attacks them. With no escape route due to the barrier, they find themselves running from the wild animal. Satou hears a voice guiding them to safety, leading him and the others into a tree. The barrier then sweeps the bear away. They meet the owners of the voices and realize they are elves. Alabaster thanks the elves for their help and starts explaining their situation. But Satou interrupts, revealing he is the Ring King in search of their princess. Hime quietly scolds him, noting that not all nations with rings are eager to join their cause. The elves agree to escort them to the palace but warn that things might not go as expected. The elves explain they must travel through the roots of a giant tree to reach Lanka, admitting the narrow path is inconvenient but keeps large beasts out of the city. Once in the city, they are taken to the throne room, where they find the throne empty. Hime then spots the princess hiding behind the throne. Satou introduces himself as the Ring King from another world to the princess. She inquires if Satou is married and have they already done it. Hime is shocked by the princess's blunt question, but the princess clarifies she's referring to a kiss. Satou confirms he has kissed, prompting Hime to assert that Satou already possesses the Ring of Light. She urges the elven princess to follow tradition and grants Satou her ring to help defeat the Abyss King. The elven princess, finding the idea of kissing too gross, runs away, leaving Satou surprised by her reaction. Prince Jade Rank arrives and comments on his sister's reclusive nature, hinting at the difficulty of obtaining a ring from her. When Satou identifies himself as the rumored new Ring King, Jade summons his guards, who then detain Satou, while assuring that his companions will be treated well. Jade explains his actions by emphasizing his sister Nephrite's delicate sensibilities, defending her as innocent and kind, despite her shy and childlike behavior. Jade reveals his overprotectiveness, explaining that Nephrite has never left the royal palace and is unaccustomed to strangers. Despite being 54 years old, Jade considers her too young for marriage and sees it as his duty to protect and care for her. He then informs Satou that he will be detained for the next 80 years, until Nephrite matures, leaving Satou locked up as he departs. After Jade decides to imprison Satou, an elf questions his decision, but Jade confidently states that their impenetrable wind barrier, powered by the Ring of Wind, keeps them safe from any threats, including the Abyss King. Their priority is to safeguard this ring, ensuring their country's protection. 3 days have passed since Satou's confinement, and he despairs at his situation until an elven woman visits him, inquiring about his intentions with the 5 rings. Satou expresses his simple desire to please Hime, which the woman finds admirably odd. She introduces herself as someone committed to her nation's future and criticizes Jade's decision to imprison Satou, who could be pivotal in opposing the Abyss King. Contrary to preserving the barrier for protection, she views it as a restraint on their people. She leads Satou through a secret passage to where the Ring of Wind is kept, revealing it placed in the hands of statues, which Satou assumes to represent the princess's parents. However, their visit is interrupted by Princess Nephrite, who prays to the statues, expressing her determination not to be taken away, and to uphold her mother's wishes to protect their peace. The elven woman explains to Satou that the statues are not mere representations, but the petrified forms of the former elven king and queen. They've become stone guardians, their lives sacrificed to maintain the barrier through the ring's power. Satou is shocked to learn the true guardians of the ring are Nephrite's petrified parents, symbolizing the heavy burden and legacy of protection that the royal family bears. Nephrite overhears a noise, and, suspecting someone's presence, asks them to reveal themselves. Satou, trying to avoid detection, steps out, causing Nephrite to scream and faint. Satou catches her to prevent her from hitting the ground. A soldier, alerted by the scream, rushes to investigate, but Satou and the woman quickly depart with the unconscious princess. As they escape, Satou inquires about their destination. The woman, revealing herself as an elder familiar with the palace, assures him of her knowledge of the area. Meanwhile, Jade discovers Nephrite is missing and begins a frantic search throughout the palace. Satou reflects on the elder's words about Nephrite's resilience despite her sheltered life. The elder entrusts Satou with the mission to obtain Nephrite's ring before leaving them alone. When Nephrite regains consciousness, she's startled to find herself with Satou, who reassures her of his harmless intentions, but she reacts with hostility. Jade learns of Satou's escape and suspects him of abducting Nephrite. The elder confirms Jade's suspicion and suggests that Satou and Nephrite have eloped, a notion that baffles Jade given Nephrite's timid nature. The elder challenges Jade to accept the reality that Nephrite might no longer express love for him, causing Jade to panic. She emphasizes that Nephrite's destiny is to inherit the Ring of Wind, criticizing Jade's overprotectiveness as contrary to Nephrite's interest. Despite Jade's insistence that the ring's current guardians, their petrified parents, adequately protect the nation, he vows to search the elder's residence. Back at the elder's residence, Satou, having washed their clothes, receives an apology from Nephrite for the inconvenience. This simple interaction underscores the burgeoning understanding and dynamics between Satou the princess, and the elder amidst the unfolding events surrounding the Ring of Wind and the protective barrier. Satou reassures the princess that washing their clothes was no trouble, especially after her unfortunate incident. Nephrite admits she's always been afraid of outsiders due to her sheltered upbringing within the palace walls. Learning that Satou hails from another world, she's intrigued but apprehensive, fearing the unknown. Satou explains his world is peaceful and devoid of monsters, sparking Nephrite's curiosity about whether elves exist there. When Satou confirms there are no elves in his world, Nephrite expresses a mixture of disappointment and fascination. Despite her sheltered life, she's curious about the world beyond the palace but is hesitant to confront the reality of it, finding solace in books and her imagination. Satou finds a common ground between them, revealing his journey to this world wasn't driven by special powers but by his desire to be with someone he loves. He encourages Nephrite, suggesting that despite challenges, there's always a way to explore and experience more. Excited by the prospect, Nephrite expresses a wish to see Satou's world, to which Satou agrees, gently reminding her to dress appropriately. Their conversation takes a turn when Jade and others arrive, demanding Nephrite's presence. The moment highlights Nephrite's internal conflict between her curiosity for the outside world and the constraints of her royal life, setting the stage for a decision that could change her life forever. Satou explains to Nephrite that he pursued the role of Ring King solely to be with his beloved Hime, with his current quest being to gather all the rings. He emphasizes that he doesn't want to coerce Nephrite into marriage. The choice is hers. Nephrite, determined, believes her brother will eventually come around to understanding her decision. When they confront Jade, Nephrite, initially shielded by Satou, steps forward to defend Satou's character against Jade's accusations. She argues that despite the ring's current guardianship by their parents, it's inevitable that she'll one day inherit it, acknowledging she can't always rely on Jade's protection. This defiance angers Jade, who accuses her of betrayal, leading Nephrite to reluctantly side with him. Jade then publicly accuses Satou of not only escaping confinement but also kidnapping Nephrite, vowing consequences. The elder intervenes, claiming responsibility for the situation, countering Jade's actions towards Satou as equally questionable. She promises to monitor Satou, to which Jade consents, albeit with the stipulation that Satou and Nephrite must not meet again. In a later conversation with Hime, she expresses concern for Satou's well-being. Satou assures her of his safety, but Hime notes the apparent bond formed between Satou and Nephrite during the ordeal. Satou questions Hime about possibly being jealous of his interaction with Nephrite, to which Hime playfully asks if that's wrong. Satou reassures there's nothing wrong, just as Elder Peridot, Lachma's oldest elf, arrives and introduces herself to Hime. Satou inquires about Nephrite's behavior and its relation to her parents. Peridot shares Lachma's history, explaining the barrier, and Nephrite's demeanor stem from a past event. Nephrite's mother wasn't the first choice for the throne due to her sister, who fell in love with a human traveler. This relationship caused uproar among the elves, fearing the outsider might take the Ring of Wind or had ill intention. Rumors and paranoia escalated, but the princess's love persisted until the traveler's mysterious departure, whether expelled or worse. Satou is shocked by the extreme measures taken over the rings. Alabaster adds context, stating the rings symbolize power and national pride since ancient times, coveted by those without. Peridot reveals the elder sister cursed Lachma upon leaving, predicting its downfall and the end of the ring's lineage. Such curses weigh heavily on elves, given their longevity, casting a shadow of fear over the populace and royal family alike, illustrating the depth of historical wounds within Lachma. After the older sister's departure, Nephrite's parents took charge of the Ring of Wind. To protect Lanka from the curse and outsiders, they created a wind barrier, sacrificing themselves to become stone guardians. Before their transformation, they made Nephrite promise never to leave the barrier's safety, effectively imprisoning the nation and herself. Nephrite recalls the solemn vow she made to her parents. Her mother, in her final moments before becoming stone, urged Nephrite to stay within the nation's bounds, assuring her protection until a destined time. This memory brings Nephrite to tears, as she's reminded of the heavy responsibility and isolation her promise entails. The scene changes, and Alabaster informs Satou that they have to give up on the Ring of Wind for now. He emphasizes that while they delay, the Abyss King's army might be approaching, and they can't stay in one place forever. Alabaster clarifies that they're not abandoning the ring completely, it's just not their top priority at the moment. He stresses the importance of collecting as many rings as possible. Alabaster points out that Satou isn't currently a match for the Knight of the Abyss King. Although Satou understands Alabaster's concerns, he hesitates. Hime questions if Satou's hesitation is due to his concern for Nephrite. Satou admits that he is worried about her and feels responsible for disrupting her peaceful life. Jade notices them leaving, thinking it's a good idea, as the Ring King's story is more of a myth, uncertain even to seemingly immortal elves. Jade believes his duty is to protect the city's people. Suddenly, they learn that abyssal creatures have breached the wind barrier. A powerful monster has torn through, sending monsters into the city. Jade is shocked that the barrier created by his parents has been broken, and more monsters wait outside to attack. Satou and the others attempt to leave the city but notice the abyssal creatures entering. They decide to turn back and defend the ring. To enhance Satou's power, Hime kisses him, and chaos ensues in the city as abyssal creatures wreak havoc. The elder informs Nephrites about the breach and asks if she plans to stay put. Nephrites, committed to her promise to her mother, wants to stay and keep a low profile. The elder suggests that an elf who sacrifices their desires to live isn't truly alive. Later, the Knight of the Abyss King attempts to steal the Ring of Wind. Jade, anticipating her move, confronts her. Knowing the Knight's plan to use the ring to bring the army inside, Jade attacks her. However, the Knight, revealing powerful magic, easily counters Jade. Recognizing her as the Knight who attacked Nakanatica, Jade realizes he can't back down and must protect his parents' legacy. The Knight attempts to attack him with wind, but Alabaster intervenes, saving Jade with a spell. Jade is puzzled about the Ring King's presence, and Satou expresses uncertainty about saving Jade. However, he emphasizes that Nephrites considers this place home, and today, he is determined to defeat the Knight. Because he have received power from his wife, he attempts to attack the Knight, but she easily blows him away. Jade informs Satou that she can nullify all magic attacks, leaving no hope for victory. Hime tends to Satou, noting that he is aware of the Knight's strength but still wants to protect them. Jade, getting back on his feet, declares his commitment to keeping his sister safe and freeing her from the fate of the rings. Meanwhile, Satou struggles to get close to the Knight, and Alabaster thinks the situation is worse than expected. Satou questions his own strength, wondering why he can't overcome the Knight. Hime speculates whether her hesitation during their earlier kiss affected Satou. She admits to feeling jealous of Nephrites, and believes she can't assist Satou on her own. Hime then approaches Nephrites, catching the attention of the elder. Meanwhile, Alabaster suggests to Satou that they should retreat, but Satou refuses, explaining that the creature is after the Ring of Wind. The elder arrives and informs Satou that the Princess of Light has gone to find Nephrites. Confused, Satou questions why she would do this. Peridot, joining others to buy time, mentions that the princess is doing it for him and praises Satou's remarkable life. In another scene, Hime approaches Nephrites and proposes that she marry Satou. Hime shares her own feelings of uselessness, having lost her parents protecting the ring, while acknowledging the heavy burden Nephrites carries. Nephrites, however, insists that her parents sacrificed themselves to cast the wind barrier so that she wouldn't have to inherit the ring. She cannot betray their sacrifice. Hime argues that they are different, pointing out that she is not helpless. She emphasizes that her brother and the elder are currently fighting the Knight of the Abyss King, even though they stand little chance. But Nephritis says that it is their responsibility as ring bearers. Hime tells Nephrites that Satou is putting his life at risk to protect their home. Even though he may not seem like it, he's a really considerate person who won't give up. There's a chance he might even get killed, and she feels helpless not being able to do anything on her own. So, she requests Nephrites to marry Satou and save him. Nephrites opens the door to her room, pondering if she can truly make a difference. The scene then shifts to Satou and others engaged in a battle with the Knight. Hime and Nephrites join the fight with a hammer. Jade questions Nephrites' presence, and she replies that he can scold her later. The two princesses break statues of the Elven King and Queen, deactivating the barriers around Lamka. Nephrites hands the Ring of Wind to Satou, kisses him. Satou looked at the ring and Jade worries about an incoming horde of abyssal creatures without the barrier. However, Nephrites calms him, and Satou, using the power of the rings, emits a light that eliminates all monsters in Lamka. While this weakens the Knight of the Abyss King, Satou attempts to attack the Knight, who counters using the power of the Ring of Wind, destroying her mask. Satou faints. He wakes up later, finding Nephrites and Hime with him. The elder arrives, expressing joy at Satou's recovery and acknowledging the display of the ring's powers. An elven woman, identified as Sumeragdi, thanks Satou for saving Lamka from the Abyss King's army. Satou learns that Sumeragdi is the elder sister of the late Queen of Lamka, who once left the country after losing her lover to the ring. Curious about her return, Satou discovers that the elder reveals herself as the one behind the Abyss Knight's mask. She presents a black ring of wind, explaining that it had controlled her mind but is now useless. Sumeragdi reveals that she cursed her ill fate with the ring and the harsh reality, allowing the Abyss King to exploit her impure thoughts. The Abyss King tempted her to free her from suffering, urging her to choose the black ring. Satou is shocked by the extreme influence of the Abyss King. The elder explains that after the battle with the Ring King, the Abyss King lost its physical form. and its soul got sealed far away in the north at a place called Varna. That's the extent of their knowledge. Alabaster adds that even without a physical form, the Abyss King's minions continue to attack humans relentlessly. With the ability to create black rings for its knights, the threat remains significant. Realizing the urgency, Satou feels the need to collect all the rings quickly. Trying to stand, he realizes he's too weak from using too much power from the rings. The elder points out that using so much of the ring's power would usually be fatal, but his connection with the princesses protected him. She suggests expressing gratitude, and Satou recalls that he's now married to Nephrites. Nephrites, aware of a healing spring in the palace, offers to take Satou there for his recovery. The scene then shifts to Satou, the princess, and the healing spring, where Satou wonders why they're all bathing together. Nephrites acknowledges that she knows about Satou and expresses her desire for guidance from Hime, as Hime became Satou's wife first. Hime, in turn, proudly declares her love for Satou, boasting about the numerous times they've kissed and implying they engage in nightly couple activities. The elder arrives and requests a demonstration of how they've nurtured their love. She shares that, despite her own experiences with humans from this world, the techniques might differ. Viewing it as a perfect opportunity to observe, Hime agrees to showcase their relationship. However, Satou intervenes, not allowing the atmosphere of the place to influence them. The scene shifts to Sumeragi asking the Great Sage about the human she met 50 years ago and whether he was killed. The Great Sage reveals a pendant, a gift from that human. He explains that he's known the human for ages, and the human, wishing for Sumeraga's happiness, now lives peacefully in a distant land. He expresses gladness in conveying these thoughts to her and hands her the pendant. Subsequently, Nephrites bids farewell to her parents at their graves, reassuring them that she's okay now, having found a purpose. Jade approaches and inquires if she's leaving, to which Nephrites confirms. Jade notices that Nephrites has become stronger, and Nephrites decides to join Satou and the others. Satou questions her choice, and she assures him that as a ring princess, it's her duty to assist the Ring King. She also expresses her desire to explore the outside world, as Satou had promised to take her to his world someday. Curious, Hime asks when Satou made such a promise, and the group continues on their journey. The scene shifts to Sumeragdi asking Peridot about the potential happiness of the Ring Princess. It's revealed that Peridot is one of the earliest Ring Princesses. She mentions that all the Ring Princesses she has met so far have never had a happy ending, including the first princess. The new Ring King shows a bit of bashfulness, and this aspect of his personality might lead to positive changes. Sumeragdi overhears people talking about the Ring King's group and discovers that the Great Sage is named Alabaster. Recognizing the name as that of her lover, she learns that Alabaster was the human she had once fallen in love with. Meanwhile, Alabaster joined them and asked them to hurry or they will have to sleep under the star. The story then shifts to Hime having a dream where she is married to Satou. In the dream, Satou tries to be intimate with her, but to her surprise, Nephrites is in the bed instead of her. Confused and thinking that she should be in Nephrites' place, Hime wakes up relieved that it was just a dream. She joins the others and sees Satou serving dinner to Nephrites. Mars asks Alabaster about their next destination, and he mentions they are heading to the Kingdom of Water. Mars expresses his desire to visit the place, and Nephrites accidentally burns her tongue while eating hot food. Satou, who has been spending a lot of time with Nephrites, gets worried. When Hime asks Satou about her dinner, he tells her to serve it herself, making Hime angry and embarrassed. She tries to run away, but Satou stops her. As they continue their conversation, they notice something approaching. Satou wonders what it is, and Alabaster reveals that it's their lucky day, the giant moving country of the Catfolk Knights, the Kingdom of Fire named Nitakita. Satou finds it hard to believe that it's an entire country. Alabaster shares that he was wondering where to find the country, and believes they can't miss the chance. He suggests going to the princess to obtain the Ring of Fire before heading to the Kingdom of Water. Mars is disappointed, and Satou wonders if Mars is eager to go to the Water Kingdom because he has someone important there. Satou asks Alabaster how they'll enter the country, and Alabaster shouts for the country to give them a ride. Someone lowers a ladder, and Alabaster says it's time to go up. Nephrites is afraid of the height, and Satou encourages her. Hime assures Satou that she'll take care of Nephrites, and the scene shows them climbing up the stairs safely. They all board the country and find the inside resembling a market. Hime wonders where the Order of Knights is, and Nephrites explains that Nitakita is the Order of Knights of Fire for the strong catfolk. Merchants seek protection from them, turning it into a massive caravan. Nephrites mentions it aligns with what was written in the book, and Alabaster praises her knowledge. He reveals that the catfolk lost their land in the era of the first Ring King, building a city on moving platforms, eventually becoming a moving tribe providing armed services. Alabaster says it's more fitting to call them mercenary, as the once strongest order of knights has transformed into the safest traveling caravan. Alabaster suggests asking people to guide them to the ring Princess of Fire, but he realizes that the two princesses are missing. Meanwhile, Nephrites explores some books in the market, finding it to be a treasure trove. She also comes across some immunia and tries to show them to Satou, but he's not around. Hime tells Nephrites that they might have gotten separated. Feeling scared among unfamiliar faces, Nephrites becomes anxious and apologizes for causing trouble. Hime reassures her, saying it's not a problem. Hime then notices some catfolks, finding their cat ears cute. However, Nephrites informs Hime that these catfolks have ancient warrior blood, serving the Ring King with violence. She adds that elven ears are cuter. The catfolk ask if they are lost. Hime explains that they got separated from their friends, and the locals advise them to head to the arena since it's a noticeable landmark. Grateful for the help, Hime thanks them, while Nephrites finds them to be different from what she read in the book. Meanwhile, Satou worries about his companions, but Alabaster tells him to stay calm, reassuring him that Nitikita is a safe place. He suggests they prioritize finding the Ring Princess of Fire. Expressing his concern, Satou notes that they've been attracting attention. He questions if they're truly safe here, to which Mars responds that the catfolks respect strength. Satou believes it's because of his imposing aura, but it's actually Mars who catches the interest of some catgirls, who invite him for tea, assuming he's a skilled swordsman. Mars, however, insists that Satou is stronger, though the catgirls find it hard to believe due to Satou's lack of muscle. Mars redirects the conversation, asking the catgirls if they know where to find the princess. Disappointed, the catgirls assume he's another admirer, and mention the ongoing matchmaking session. The scene shifts to Hime and Nephrites outside the arena, where they enjoy some crepes. They both enjoy the taste of the crepes, and Hime notices a smudge on Nephrites' face, so she cleans it for her. Nephrites observes that Hime's caring nature is similar to Satou's, describing them both as kind. Traveling with them makes Nephrites feel like her parents are watching over her. Hime humbly points out that she can't be like Nephrites' mother since Nephrites is older. Nephrites then apologizes to Hime, expressing that she wanted to apologize because Satou has been taking care of her so attentively lately. Hime reassures her, saying she doesn't mind at all. Hime acknowledges Nephrites as a delicate princess who has been safeguarded for a long time, and she understands that Satou enjoys taking care of people. Nephrites believes that Hime still feels jealous, and Hime accepts this. Nephrites explains that her feelings stem from deep love for Satou, but she can only admire him, acknowledging that her feelings are not as strong as Hime's. She questions her capability to fulfill her duty as the Ring King's wife. As they converse, they notice a battered person emerging from the arena. Satou and the others arrive at the arena and reunite with the princesses. May points out that something seems off after witnessing a man getting beaten. Some girls then invite them to participate in a matchmaking session with the princess. They all enter the arena and observe the cat princess engaging in a fight. She effortlessly defeats her opponent and notices the presence of the Ring King. The cat princess informs Satou that to become her husband, he must be stronger than her and proceeds to attack him. Unfortunately, Satou is unable to match her strength, and she defeats him. Expressing disappointment, the cat princess remarks that she was excited to fight the Ring King but finds him too weak. She suggests he come back for a rematch and leaves, as there are many people waiting for a matchmaking session with her. We then see Satou having a practice session with Mars, but he struggles to land a single hit on him. When it's time for dinner, they take a break, and the chef informs Satou that only strong warriors can hope to marry the Ring Princess of Fire. Currently, no one in the country can beat her, so they've invited men from various races for matchmaking. The chef introduces their princess, Gran Nitikita, as the strongest catfolk princess of this generation. Satou wonders if he can defeat her, and Alabaster suggests using the power of the rings. Satou hesitates, thinking magic is like cheating, but the chef explains that magic is a mage's strength in combat, and many mages also participate in the matchmaking. The chef advises Satou to eat up, emphasizing that he can't win on an empty stomach. Satou follows the advice and eats. The scene shifts to Satou watching Granard in another matchmaking session, where she defeats her opponent with a single strike. Afterward, Satou sits alone, and May joins him, inquiring if his training is over. Satou mentions he's on a break, and after that, Alabaster will provide him with magic training. May invites Satou to lie down on her lap, considering it a reward for his hard work. She asks if he feels better, and Satou expresses that he feels great and is ready to face any challenge with her encouragement. Nephrites notices this and hides. Later, Hime reassures Satou that it's alright for him to feel weak, but Satou disagrees, saying he can't afford to be weak. Hime reminds Satou of his task to marry 5 princesses and collect their rings, suggesting he can use the power of the rings to fight. She explains that the strength of the rings depends on their connections and assures him she'll fulfill her duty. Hime advises Satou not to push himself too hard to be stronger, but Satou believes that would render him useless. Hime jokingly suggests he maintain his slightly useless appearance. Afterward, Alabaster arrives for Satou's training. Following the training, Satou joins Mars for a bath, where Mars praises Satou's performance. Satou expresses surprise at Mars's martial arts skills, as he didn't expect Mars to enjoy fighting. Mars explains that as a royal family member, he must excel in both combat and academia, noting that his father and brother are even more impressive fighters. Satou asks Mars if he thinks he could defeat Granard with the power of the rings. Mars admits he would likely lose in a sword fight against her. A girl offers to scrub their backs, and Satou accepts, but instead, a muscular guy scrubs Satou's back. Later, Granard arrives, suggesting Satou's fatigue must be alleviated by now. She asks Satou to scrub her back, despite his hesitation as a man. Granard insists it doesn't matter, asserting that since Satou lost to her in a fight, it's only fair for him to do something for her. Satou then proceeds to scrub Granard's back and notices the presence of strong muscles underneath her smooth skin. Granard expresses her dissatisfaction with the day's matchmaking, describing the men who challenged her as dull and overly eager to prove themselves. She feels tired of it all until Satou arrives. Granard explains that as the Ring Princess, it's her duty to follow the Ring King, and she offers to assist Satou. She suggests they stage a match where he wins, but it must appear believable. She acknowledges his worthiness to wear the rings and agrees to cooperate. However, Satou rejects her offer, stating he doesn't need her pity. He declares he'll fight with all his strength, and Granard encourages him to do his best before leaving. The scene transitions to Satou training with his sword, determined not to accept this humiliation, as he promised Hime he would get stronger. The next morning, Satou wakes up and sees Nephrites in his bed. He asks when she arrived, and she says she's been there all along. Nephrites checks how he's feeling and mentions that the ring can heal his injuries. She reminds him of his hard training to beat Granard. Satou feels he might still lose, but Nephrites encourages him to use the ring's power to win. She explains that though being recognized by the princess is good, his mission as the Ring King is to collect all 5 rings, even if it means using any means necessary. Satou agrees. Nephrites adds that it's the Ring Princess's duty to support the Ring King. She advises Satou to follow his heart and do what's needed. Satou agrees and goes to train. Nephrites feels disappointed with her limited help, and the scene changes to Satou training with Mars. He surprises Mars with an attack, showing improvement. Satou wonders if he can win at least once out of 10 tries against Granard, but Mars says it's unlikely. He explains that Granard won't use obvious attacks like Satou did and advises him to counter her moves and use his ring's power. Satou continues training while Hime watches. Later, Hime overhears catfolks discussing how Satou touched Granard. She asks for details and learns the truth. In bed, she thinks Satou was only scrubbing Granard, but it doesn't change the fact he touched her. She imagines herself in Satou's place and feels embarrassed. The scene changes to Satou having a rematch with Granard, and people hearing about it gather at the arena to watch. Before the match, Satou meets a knight who was defeated by Granard. Then, he faces Granard in the arena. Hime, not cheering for Satou, is asked by Alabaster why she isn't cheering. Alabaster mentions Satou's efforts to earn Granard's recognition, but Hime believes it's Satou's duty to collect the rings. Meanwhile, the defeated knight finds a ring and hears a voice telling him to pick it up for power. He takes it and interrupts Granard in Satou's match by attacking Satou. Granard intervenes, and the knight summons abyssal creatures, causing chaos. Armed catfolks arrive and fight the creatures, stating they've trained to combat them. Granard orders her subordinates to isolate the area and contain the monsters while evacuating people. Granard battles the knight, whose flames melt her blade. Satou tries to attack the knight using wing magic, but fails, getting thrown back by the knight's power. Granard tells Satou to step back and let her handle things. Satou questions how she plans to deal with the situation when her sword can't touch the opponent. Granard refuses to give up, explaining that her people are descendants of warriors who fought alongside the Ring King. She believes it's their duty to fight alongside him, even if he's unreliable. Satou disagrees with this, admitting he hasn't mastered the ring's magic but can still distract the opponent and disperse its flames. Granard acknowledges the risk but agrees to let him help. Using the rings as bait, Satou distracts the opponent, who tries to attack him. Satou uses wind magic to disperse its flames while Granard attacks, then hands her sword to Satou to finish the opponent. Using the power of the Ring of Light, Satou cuts through the opponent's mask, revealing it was controlled by a black ring. The catfolks inform Granard they've dealt with the abyssal creatures, impressing Satou with their strength. Granard admits she may have underestimated Satou, recognizing his qualities of a king despite his lack of physical strength. She acknowledges his worth and asks him to marry her. Hime doesn't approve, but she understands because Satou has been working hard for this. Satou tells Granard he won't ask for her recognition. He'll make her recognize him by challenging her to another fight. They face off again, and Granard attacks, catching Satou off guard and landing a hit. Despite this, Satou refuses to give up. Hime wonders why Satou is still fighting when Granard agreed to give him the ring. Nephrite asks Hime why she's not cheering for him, but Hime explains that Satou is fighting for her sake. Granard urges Satou to use his rings, suspecting he's holding back. Satou explains that the power from the rings belongs to Hime and Nephrite, not him. Even if he wins using them, he'd feel like a loser in front of the girl he loves. He wants to be a better man for his beloved wife, which Hime finds foolish. She then promises Satou that she will let him clap her if he wins, which motivates him, though Hime feels embarrassed afterward. Satou hears a voice from the rings calling him amusing. It promises to help him predict Granard's next move if he focuses on it. Though unsure, Satou is told not to worry as it's not the power of the ring princesses. The voice says it's an opportunity he's earned. Understanding this, Satou agrees. Granard attacks, but Satou manages to counter and she vanishes from sight. The voice from the rings informs Satou that Granard is above him. Satou successfully defends against her attack and defeats her. Granard is shocked by this outcome, while Satou is puzzled. Granard, deeply impressed by Satou's victory, kisses him and praises his achievement as the first person to defeat her. She feels he deserves recognition and suggests they start a family together. Granard attempts to instruct her servant to prepare, but Satou interrupts, asking her to hold on. Granard wonders if he's dissatisfied with her appearance. Satou reassures her it's not about that and reminds her of his promise to Hime. The scene shifts to Hime and Satou in their bedroom. Satou initiates intimacy, but he falls asleep. Hime, realizing he's tired from using the ring's power, finds him admirable and kisses his forehead, thinking he looked impressive earlier. The next morning, Satou wakes up and realizes he's naked in bed with Hime. Hime comments on Satou's energetic behavior the previous night, but Satou can't recall anything. Then, they notice Nephrite's also on the bed. Nephrite reassures them that nothing happened last night. She explains she stayed awake, waiting for her turn next. Granard mentions that after Nephrite's, it will be her turn with Satou. Suddenly, a cat girl informs Granard that it's time for something important. Granard announces to everyone that they're holding a wedding banquet. This means a big celebration where people gather to celebrate a marriage. A girl who looks like a cat tells Granard it's time for a big party called the wedding banquet. Satou and his wives go to the party with other people. Granard stands up and talks to everyone there. She says that Satou, the Ring King, is back. She invites everyone to join them again as warriors, just like before. The people in Nitakita, where Granard is from, are happy. They're glad their princess found a good man. Granard is happy too. She tells Satou how glad she is that he wanted to earn her respect. This shows that Satou cares about what she thinks and wants to prove himself to her. Granard feels appreciated and valued by Satou. Satou tries to explain the strange voice to Hime, but she interrupts, saying she knows he didn't just guess her moves. She believes his victory is because of his determination, which is all she wants. This makes Satou blush and makes Hime feel jealous. Hime gets angry and drinks a whole glass of wine quickly, making her feel a bit tipsy. Satou takes her to a room to rest. Hime asks him to stop worrying her, and Satou assures her he's really happy right now. He appreciates her support and wants to continue their relationship but prefers to do so in their own world. He finds this world too strange and wants things to be normal again.